Hey, welcome back friends, and welcome to our channel. And I am so excited to share with you this spooktacular Halloween project, the Halloween bone banner from one of my absolutely favorite designers, Parker on the Porch. This banner is perfect for Halloween. You can place it on your mantle, you can place it on your entryway, maybe even outside under a covered porch. You want to learn how to make this step by step? Stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back, and I am so excited that you're sticking around for me to show you step by step on how to make this Halloween bone banner perfect for the season. So before we get started, I'm going to talk to you about the embroidery machine that I'm using in today's demonstration. She is the Janome 550 LE, and I love this single needle machine. It has the largest frame of 14.2 by 7.9, which I think can do a lot of in the hoop projects, just like the one we're going to be doing today. If you want to learn more about this machine, visit us at janomejunkies.com. Of course, you guys know by now that you can call me at 813-661-9000. So let's move into supplies on what's needed for this project next. First up, and probably my favorite, is your fabric selection that you'll want for this project. Now, you can choose whatever fabric that you want. I actually chose sort of those prime colors for Halloween: orange, black, and purple. But you'll need fabric for the top and the bottom of your banner pendants. So have fun, be festive, maybe even use glow-in-the-dark fabric. Alrighty, next up is thread. We are using Glide 40 weight polyester thread. You guys know by now it's my go-to for embroidery. I love it for the strength, but I really like it for the shine that my embroidery projects have. I am actually doing coordinating colors here that match my fabrics. I'm doing orange, white, and black. So pick the colors that you want that coordinate best back with your fabrics. Next up is stabilizer. You'll want stabilizer for this project, and you can use tear-away or cutaway. It's your preference. We use today the Sulky Tear-Away. So make sure you have your stabilizer ready to go. Next up is best press. So this is a must-have for any and all embroidery projects that I do. Why, do you ask? Is a little bit of this will add just enough starch to make sure my fabric is crisp. It kind of gives it a little additional stabilizer. So best press is a must. We need temporary adhesive spray for all of our fabric pieces for our design, and this is my favorite. A little goes a long way. 505 temporary spray. Next up is tape, embroidery tape. We have this really adorable tape dispenser from Kimber Bell, and then the tape itself does not come included, but you can get the roll of tape as well. This is in addition to the 505 spray that we use. You'll see this being used throughout my demonstration, so make sure you have tape handy as well. Last up is scissors. You want to make sure that you have good quality scissors for your applique project. And so I've got a pair of scissors here that I'm using for my applique, and it's always a good idea to have some snips handy. You never know when those thread tails might get in your way and you have to trim those up. Last up is the purple thing. Now, a lot of people use these as a turning tool, which is fantastic to get those points out, but I actually used it to thread my jute rope all the way through my banner. So she's got multiple uses, and if you don't have a purple thing, you need to get that and all of these other supplies right on janomejunkies.com. All right, so now what I want to do is go through the preparation of your fabric for this project to make sure it goes off without a hitch. So I have all of my fabrics here for my project. So the white is going to be my applique letters. If you see behind me in my banner, white are my bone letters. So how I'll prep this is I will actually use 505 spray to press out any of my wrinkles and add that little bit of starch, but then I also will use Heat and Bond Light. I always use Heat and Bond Light when I do applique, because when you trim around the letters, it's your fabric won't fray. If you don't use Heat and Bond Light and you trim around really close, you're probably going to have a little bit of mess. So make sure you grab that Heat and Bond and make sure the glue is on the wrong side of the fabric. You'll press her down and you'll peel that layer back and you'll have that prepped ready to go. You'll want to do 14 of these. Happy Halloween is 14 letters, and you'll want to cut this down to 5 by 5. All right, if you haven't already downloaded the instructions for this project from Parker on the Porch, you'll need to do so. And my recommendation is to read it thoroughly at least once, maybe twice, and that way you're set up for success. And so these sizes that I'm giving you for the cuts of the thread are located in those directions. She also is fantastic, and she will give you all the supplies, of which I've already listed here for you. All right, so the next part, which is the funnest part, is the coordinating fabrics for this design. I chose purple, black, and orange, a little bit of skeletons and pumpkins for the Halloween season. You'll want to press these out with your 505 spray, and then you'll want to cut blocks of 7 by 7. These will be used for the top and the bottom. Now, if you don't want to use the same fabric on the bottom and you want to use a different color, you can do so. You get to choose. For me, I use the same color on the top and the bottom. I will tell you something that I did a little bit different on this project that's not in the instructions for Parker and the Porch, is that I actually added SF101 to the back of my fabric. And I only did that because this banner behind us is actually going to Gigi's fabric shop, and it's going to be on display probably for several years to come. And I wanted to make sure that it could stand the test of time. So not a requirement, it just adds a little bit more stability to your fabric. So again, you want to take all of your coordinating fabrics and cut them down 7 by 7 for each letter. So 2 front and back for each letter. All right, so I actually have my hoop on my embroidery machine. I would just say when you're hooping, just make sure your stabilizer is nice and taut. I've already done that. I want to spend a little bit of time on the screen here so you can understand what you're looking at. Of course, if you have the directions, you can refer back to the color chart as well. So my machine is saying that I can actually use a 5 by 5 hoop. I'm actually using an 8 by 8 hoop today just for demonstration purposes, so it's nice and large for you today. My design is going to be 5 by 5. I have set my machine at 600 stitches per minute. I have 7 stops, and it should take about 15 minutes to stitch out. My total design is just under 7,000 stitches. Our first step that we're going to do is actually stitch down our placement stitch. The placement stitch will show us exactly where to lay the top of our banner fabric. I'm going to lower my presser foot and press start. Now I am using orange thread here so that you can actually see the placement stitch very clearly on the screen. This is really preference for you. If you want to do white or another color, again, that's coordinating your fabrics, that's okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is get our top of our banner flag, our fabric ready. I'm actually using the orange, and so what I'm going to do is actually flip her over, and I'm going to spray a little bit of 505 spray to make sure that this is really adhesive down on the stabilizer. And I'm just going to do it in the center because I know that's where I'm going to be placing it down. So again, you want to use this placement stitch and put the pretty side up, and just make sure you are covering your placement stitch entirely. Once you have that secured down, if you want to, you can add a couple pieces of tape since we're floating this fabric to make sure it doesn't shift. Alrighty, so since we've already laid down our placement stitch, our step number 2 is actually going to lay down the applique tack down. But if you want to, you can actually go back to step number 1 and lay down another placement stitch just to make sure that your fabric is secured to the stabilizer. Okay, so we redid step number 1, and now step number 2 is going to lay down the placement stitch for our applique letter, which we're going to be doing an end today. So I've lowered my presser foot, and now I'm going to press start. All right, so we've laid down our placement stitch for our applique, and you guessed it, step number 3 is you're gonna grab your coordinating fabric for your applique, and we're gonna lay that on top of your placement stitch. All right, so here is our placement stitch, and now I'm going to put my coordinating fabric, which I've selected white. I'm gonna spray 505 on my back of my fabric and lay this down, making sure that I'm covering my placement stitch. And I'm going to take it back to the machine, and we're going to do our second placement stitch. All right, so I've laid down my fabric and I've re-hooped my hoop onto my machine, and now I'm going to press start. So this is our placement stitch for our bone letter. And when this is complete, we're going to actually take the hoop out of the machine. We're not going to unhoop her. And we're going to trim away the fabric using our placement stitch. Alrighty, so I have removed my hoop from my machine, and look at how adorable that bone letter is. It's so fun and festive. Now, you want to grab your applique scissors. I'm going to be using my curved scissors, and basically what you want to do is you want to trim around as close as you can to the placement stitch without cutting the placement stitch. Here I would say take your time, because not only do you not want to trim your placement thread, but you also don't want to puncture your hole, because that might mean you might have to do it over, and you don't want to do that. All right, so I've trimmed my bone letter in, and now I'm actually going to take the hoop and put it right back on the machine, and now we're going to start our decorative stitches. If you want to change the color of your thread, now would be a good time. So this step is laying down the satin stitch over our letter. This is the first of 2 decorative stitches for the applique letter. You'll see here on the final decorative stitch, I'm actually going to change my color to black just to make sure I pop out the satin stitch a little bit. Alrighty, now we're moving on to our next decorative stitch. This is going to be a bean stitch on top of our satin stitch for our letter. I'm actually using black because, as you guys know, it's coordinating with my other fabrics that I selected for the design, and plus I think it's going to pop really nice with the bean stitch. Alright, so step 6 is we're actually going to stitch out 2 lines, one on either side of the circle. I went ahead and changed back to orange. This isn't anything that you're going to be able to see, but I know that my final stitch is going to be orange, so I just went ahead and changed my thread. This stitch is going to allow opening for you to thread either your ribbon or your twine to make your banner. Alrighty, so I've taken my hoop out of my machine, and now what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to flip my hoop over. And this is actually where I'm going to put the back of my fabric. So my front of my fabric is orange. I actually selected orange for the back. Again, you can choose whatever color you would like of fabric. And again, I'm going to spray a little bit of my spray adhesive, my 505 spray, and I'm going to put a little bit of tape on that as well. Sometimes what I like to do is flip my hoop back over and just press ever so slightly. You want to make sure that you're not altering the stabilizer or your project. I'm going to flip it back over, and now I'm just going to put a couple pieces of tape to make sure my fabric is secured. I'm going to lower my presser foot, and then our final step is actually just to secure the back of the fabric to the front, and it's just going to stitch over the orange placement line that I stitched step number 1. But what you'll see is it's where you placed your stitches for your ribbon and your twine here. It's going to skip over that and continue stitching, skip over and continue to stitch, and that's the little hole that you have to actually thread your ribbon or your twine for the banner. All right, so I've taken my hoop out of my machine, and now we are ready to unhoop the project. So I'm going to unscrew my hoop here. What do you guys think about this project? I love applique. I think it's such a perfect way to add dimension and personalization for your project. So now that we have it unhooped, basically what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to actually trim about 1/4 of an inch all the way around my circle. You can use these with regular scissors, which I'll be doing today, but you can also use pinking shears if you want to do that. And there she is. And I'll turn her over, and now you can actually see where we have our hole here, and we have one on the other side. That's actually your hole where you're going to thread your twine or your ribbon through, one on either side. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. All right, so here is one of my letters that I did. This is letter E. I'm actually adding a little bit of fringe in between each of my letters. You don't need to do this, but I used some of my scraps from the fabric that I selected, and I just tore it down, then cut it down. So I'm gonna actually thread my end now onto my twine, and actually what I use is the purple thing, because I can put my twine right in this little hole here, and I can feed it through my letter. All right, so we're looking for little holes here, and so I'm gonna guide my purple thing right in my hole, and I'm actually gonna feed it through my entire little circle and see how it's coming out. And when I pull it through, my twine is gonna come all the way through, and I'll just feed it through just like so. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna quickly show you how I tie my fringe to my twine. So I'm gonna fold it in half, and I'm gonna take the loop part, and I'm gonna actually fold it over the twine, and then I'm gonna take my tails, and I'm gonna put it through the loop. And then I'm gonna hold my twine taut, and it actually will create a little bit of a bow, or like a tie. And I'll do that the same for each color. Okay, so now that I have my fabric fringe hanging, I'm gonna actually take it, and I know my other fringe is about 6 inches, and I'm just gonna trim it down here. And there we are. How adorable is that? And here she is, a spectacular Halloween bone banner, perfect for an entryway, your mantle, just a festive way to ring in the Halloween season. What do you guys think about this project from Parker on the Porch? I love her designs, and I think you'll love this too. Thanks for stitching with me today. If you have questions on the Janome 550 LE 500 or the multi-needles MB4, MB7, call me at 813-661-9000. Of course, you can always visit us at janomejunkies.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you're alerted when I do more projects just like this. So, happy hunting and happy stitching. We'll see you soon.